Mr. Nizzar Ben Chekroune, we are so happy and we have learned so much from listening to your presentation about the dramatic developments in Marrakesh. I've been 3 times.
Did you like it?
I love it.
Did we treat you well?
Yes, yes, yes. But always at the same hotel, the same friends in the artisanal sector and shops. I'd like to ask you 3 questions, okay? You can answer them one at a time. The first one is how you've been able to work so as to solve the problem of space, because I know you have a beautiful market, and this is where the artisans work and sell, etc. And yet the tourism has flourished over time. Because of the contrast with Egypt. Egypt, because of the desert, we have a very, very narrow valley, and for us it's the biggest constraint. So I wanted to know if you have some arrangements to give opportunities to newcomers into fashion or whatever.
What happened in Marrakesh is quite exceptional somehow. I think it's one of the most countries who received something that happened from the top down. What happened in Marrakesh is that we have the Medina that you know, which is big and have a lot of shops, a lot of vendors. But what happened is that there is an industrial area in Marrakesh called Sidi Ghanem, who received a lot of showrooms of handicraft companies, and they popped up like this, and they created their own space in this industrial area, and it became the space where people go when they want to meet new design, new vendors, new companies. And we actually didn't work for that. It happened. So did we put some actions to make it happen? Not really, to say the truth.
So it's not designated, that zone, for a specific craft or a specific industry or a specific service. It's open and it is available to take a small space, but you have to build it, or the government has provided?
There are some government built some spaces, but you can come and take it yourself. I mean, there are a lot of empty spaces. Because it's an industrial area, so you have companies that do or sell olives, other companies that make their bread over there. So you have multiple places, and you have some empty places, and these empty places are really keen to our handicraft companies.
What if I'm a very young startup and I can't afford to build? Can I find a space that I can rent?
In this area, the rents, in some places in this area, the rents are really low. But you have a lot of new ways to think about the space, which is having an incubator that receives these small companies, these small startups, and they can showcase their product over there for a very low price.
And the incubators are managed by a private firm, or it gets support from the government?
Right now it's something really happening. So it starts always by a private sector. And then it gets the support of the public sector.
It's more venture capital or CSR, corporate social?
It's more venture capital, yeah.
Right. It's also happening in Egypt, but not in the south, not very much. We're trying to attract them.
I mean, you need pilot cases. You need to show that it works. So that's why the government will always follow something that works. The government don't take too much risks. You know it better than me. So the private sector will take the risk, show that it works, and those who want to make it bigger will go and say to the government, we made it, now we need your support so that it grows.
When I visited Marrakesh, I think the last time must have been something like 8 years ago. There was this fantastic link between the tourism industry and the artisanal sector. How do you feel that they impact on one another? For instance, all of the restaurants and hotels, all of the hospitality were also providing space for the crafts to be sold and shown, etc. And in the crafts area, the Medina, you also had some lovely cafes, restaurants, etc.
They all did it, they all do it, and they all understand that they have to do it because it's our culture. That's why our project with UNIDO somehow is really relevant. It's called the Cultural Creative Industries, and it matches completely. Marrakesh is the biggest touristic city of Morocco, and all the places understood that craft is the history, and they have to showcase their history to be coherent with what they're selling. So a hotel will choose to work with this kind of craft because it gives the color to what they are selling. This kind of restaurant will work with this kind of ceramic of this kind of region because it suits the plates or the type of cuisine they're making. So I think we are really coherent when it's a matter of handicraft in Marrakesh.
Mm-hmm. My last question is on the budget side. We heard from the India experience that there's a very clear statement by the government with laws and decrees and implementation that the Ministry for SMEs has a role to play in spending and on all kinds of things, including training and so on. The chamber, we have a chamber here, but they were talking about a ministry for instance, chemicals, if you want to talk about a cluster of pharmaceutical or related cosmetics, etc. In Egypt, it's not that clear. It's much more on a voluntary basis that CSR happens. What about the case of Morocco and Marrakesh?
About the case of Morocco, when we came, and I say we, I talk about UNIDO, we came with this project funded by European Union and the Italian cooperation. We worked directly with the Ministry of Industry. That was our first gate. The gate beside this one is the Handicraft Ministry, of course, which is our partner today. Why the Ministry of Industry? Because they had a cluster politic. So they had fundings for clusters, and they still have it. So we needed to enter with someone who understands what is cluster and build through this one with handicraft a case. And now our fight, it's not our fight anymore because Moroccan Ministry of Handicraft is doing clusters. They are working with what we did to create other clusters. So I'd say that if your governments don't understand the necessity of doing so, you have to push. You have to push your government. It shouldn't be something that happens. It should be something that is helped, because you need to find the cases that are working, and then you put efforts and money on it so that you make a real case and then you replicate. That's what we tried to do with Marrakesh.
Egypt, we've been very late. I'd say just a few years ago, we've had our first chamber for handicrafts. And 2 years earlier, let's say like 5, 6 years ago, our first, the support structure and entity, again linked to the Ministry of Industry, both of them, for export promotion, the Export Promotion Center. And of course the monies are not there. There's very little that's made available through the budget, except for exhibitions abroad or for space in a bazaar.
If you allow me to give a recommendation, but who am I to give a recommendation somehow?
You're best practice.
Thank you so much, madam. But still, I think my recommendation, if I had to give a recommendation, that would be put a lot of efforts to count the story. And we have a lot of media today that helps to show products, to count stories to the world. And it's not expensive. It's not as expensive as going to an exhibition. An exhibition will cost a lot of money. Yes. Making a small video like La Minute Créative that I showed you today, with a small amount of budget, you reach a tremendous number of people. So put all your efforts to find the way to count your story, because your story is what's behind your product, and nobody can steal your story. Nobody can steal it. So that.
Thank you so much. And I can say it's a best practice because I remember the most beautiful products being displayed in government shops, and it was by merit. Those craftspeople who are producing quality and reasonable price, you'd have that combination in a government store. Exactly. And I think we have the same story in India as well.
We have a common story with India. I mean, what I've heard from Dr. Tamal is but cluster, when you do clusters, it's always common. So when you will do it here in a higher level in Egypt, I'm pretty sure you will succeed more than any other country in the area, because you have what a story you have. What a story you have.
We do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was a huge
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you,
All right.